The NBA offseason leaves nothing but speculation and evaluation as fans and onlookers count down to the 2025-26 season. One Bleacher Report article discussed every team's most potentially controversial move for the remainder of the summer. The story deemed extending Norman Powell as the Miami Heat's most dubious move. Powell is eligible for a 3-year extension up to $78 million, another long-term deal for the organization to absorb. The article wrote, Miami seems to be positioning itself for maximum flexibility in the off-seasons to come. It isn't slated to have a ton of cap space next summer, but that could change if Andrew Wiggins declines his player option. Tacking on more years to Powell's deal, no matter the annual rate, runs counter to the Heat's overall financial leanness. Even if Heat sign an extension that keeps him trade-eligible for this coming season, reinvesting him is a complicating factor. Powell was traded to the Heat in a 3-team deal with the Los Angeles Clippers and Utah Jazz. Despite the veteran guard coming off a career season, Los Angeles wanted to create cap space for the future. Powell now joins a Heat team desperately needing offensive firepower, as they were the worst unit in the postseason besides the Orlando Magic. Powell averaged 21.8 points on 48.4% shooting from the field and 41.8% from three-point range. Hopefully, he can complement Tyler Herro in the backcourt to offensively catapult the Heat back to true playoff contention. The problem with being at the very top? A sad part of human nature is that sometimes others want to tear you down, even if they don't necessarily believe in what they say. And Indianapolis' own Jeff Teague is the one doing the tearing here, with the iconic LeBron James as his target. Teague, the former NBA champion and all-star who is a native of Indy, played for a time with the Pacers and most recently took a high school coaching job in the area, has announced an accusation against James involving steroids. In a recent radio show appearance, Teague asserts that James took steroids while he was a member of the Miami Heat. Teague was wise enough to use the word allegedly as part of his delivery, but that didn't hold him back from insisting that when the NBA found out about the steroid usage, it arranged for James to sit out with a fake injury, and that when he returned, he came back skinny. They started testing for HGH, and he had to sit out, Teague claims. He said his back was hurting and he sat out for 3 weeks, then came back skinny. LeBron's agency, Clutch Sports, did not take the accusation lightly, and Teague quickly backtracked. It was a joke, he later said. I will never get another clutch opportunity because y'all take everything out of context. We were literally giving LeBron praise for how dominant he was. LeBron, now 40, has always been a physical freak. He entered the NBA at age 19 and was listed at 6'8" and 245 pounds. The superstar, now with the Los Angeles Lakers, is listed at 6'9" and 250. And to the eye test? It seems to us that James has generally had the same type of physique for the entirety of his brilliant career. The use of steroids in sports is nothing new and less controversial than it once was. But in this case, keeping this a secret for 20 years would represent quite an accomplishment for all parties, that we will say for sure. According to NBA insider Jake Fisher, the Miami Heat explored trading guard Terry Rozier for defensive ace Marcus Smart before the latter was bought out by the Washington Wizards. However, the Heat seemingly would have had to give up more than just Rozier in such a move, for 5 reasons. Sports' Greg Sylvander. Fisher reported that the Heat couldn't come to an agreement that Smart, now a member of the Los Angeles Lakers, was a clear upgrade over Rozier. Sylvander's reporting adds a bit of context to the story. Smart is a far more accomplished defensive player than Rozier at the highest level, but he's also a historically streaky scorer who's shot just 38.8% from the field and 32.4% from deep in his pro career up to this point. On top of that, Smart has been plagued by injuries ever since he was traded away from the Boston Celtics following the 2022-23 season. He has suited up in a combined 54 games in his last 2 seasons in the league and was limited to 34 with the Memphis Grizzlies and Wizards a season ago. The Heat find themselves in a conundrum with Rozier in the sense that he's on the heels of his worst NBA season in quite a while and is also set to be paid a lot of money in the 2025-26 campaign. He is slated to earn over $26.6 million in the coming season before he hits unrestricted free agency in the summer of 2026. It seems well within the realm of possibility that Rozier will be a member of a different team when the 2025-26 season starts up in light of how his first full season in a Heat uniform panned out. However, to this point, the team evidently hasn't been able to move him in a satisfactory way. Unfortunately, Miami's move to acquire him midway through the 2023-24 campaign has not aged well. The Heat traded guard Kyle Lowry and a first-round pick to the Charlotte Hornets in exchange for Rozier, who was a strong scorer during his Hornets stint before hitting a wall with Miami. Even though it would be considered a huge shock, there's a non-zero chance that the Miami Heat could make a move for LeBron James within the next year. If that were to happen, though, it would certainly force Pat Riley into a truly uncomfortable situation. Back when LeBron left the Heat for Cleveland in 2014, there was no question that it left some hard feelings between the two sides. Riley was reportedly disrespected during their final meeting together, and it's been anything but smooth sailing between the two sides since. This narrative grew so much that there was even a belief that the Heat organization was discouraged from working with players associated with clutch sports because of it. Even though there have been signs of healing, and perhaps forgiveness, from the two sides, it had still put Riley in a very awkward situation overall. You'd imagine that there's still some mending of fences that would have to be made between Riley and LeBron's camp. Could the Heat swing a move for LeBron? Of course. None of that truly matters unless there's a realistic shot that the Heat could make a move for LeBron. And logistically speaking, there is. In a theoretical situation, the Heat have what it would take to land LeBron via trade. The Lakers wouldn't want to take on a ton of salary and would much rather get a starting caliber player, expiring contracts, and perhaps a draft asset or two. The Heat has that lined up perfectly. And if LeBron is looking for some familiarity as he prepares to end his career, the Heat could offer him that. The fractured relationships aside, the Heat consistently offered LeBron the opportunity to compete at the highest level all 4 years. Maybe Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh are no longer here, but Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo would be a solid supporting core around him. As a duo, they're probably better than most of what LeBron has had to work with during his time in Los Angeles. The likely path forward for the Heat. Still, it does seem pretty outlandish for all this to come to fruition. Even though it may make sense on paper, it'd be truly shocking if LeBron actually left Los Angeles in season. Maybe LeBron tests free agency after the season, but in that case, the entire NBA would be in play. Under those circumstances, it would be odd for LeBron to choose to sign with the Heat over a team in a better position to compete for a championship. And maybe that's what Riley is hoping for most, which would successfully allow him to sidestep an honest face-to-face confrontation with arguably the biggest disappointment of his front office career.